Katie Brooks sat in the back corner of the massive lecture hall, her worn notebook open on the desk. Around her, 200 cadets from 12 different alien species tapped at glowing screens and neural interfaces. The soft hum of advanced technology filled the air. Katie's pencil scratched against paper as she wrote down notes the old way. A group of Altarian cadets sitting 3 rows ahead turned to look at her. Their blue skin shimmered as they whispered to each other in their musical language. Katie caught a few words she understood. Primitive human. Stone Age methods. How did she even get in here? Katie kept writing. She had heard it all before during her 3 years at the Galactic Defense Academy. Every species in the galaxy had moved beyond paper and pencil centuries ago. Even the youngest spacefaring races used neural links and quantum computers. But Katie preferred the feel of pencil on paper. Her instructors back on Earth had taught her that technology could fail, but a sharp mind and basic tools never would. The massive doors at the front of the hall slid open. Commander HFY stepped inside, his 7-foot reptilian frame moving with deadly grace. His scales were deep green with black markings that showed his rank in the Zarkon military. The room fell silent immediately. Even the advanced alien cadets knew to respect HFY. Cadets! His voice boomed across the hall without any amplification. Today marks your final exercise before graduation. Those who succeed will join the Outer Rim Defense Fleet. Those who fail will return to their home worlds. Katie looked up from her notes. The Outer Rim assignment was the most prestigious posting for new graduates. It meant real missions, real combat, and real respect from the galactic community. She had worked 3 years for this chance. HFY activated a holographic display that showed a massive space station floating in the darkness. You will assault and secure the abandoned mining station designated XK739. The station's automated defense systems are still active. Your mission is to reach the Central Command Center and disable them. The hologram rotated slowly, showing the station's complex structure, multiple docking bays, hundreds of corridors, and countless rooms spread across 5 levels. Katie studied the layout carefully, noting the main access points and potential choke points. You will work in teams of 4, HFY continued. Each team must include cadets from different species. This exercise will test your ability to work together despite your differences. Katie's stomach tightened. Team exercises were always the hardest part for her. Most alien cadets didn't want to work with the primitive human. They saw her methods as outdated and embarrassing. The commander began reading team assignments from his datapad. Katie listened as her classmates were grouped together. The Altarians looked pleased to be working with the crystalline Veltari. The energy-based Quindosi paired well with the insectoid Morgexi. Everyone seemed to have natural allies. Team 7, HFY announced. Katie Brooks, human. Veltar Christine, Veltari. Quindos Lightform, Quindosi. Morgex 6 Arms, Morgexi. Katie closed her notebook and looked toward her new teammates. Veltar was a tall, crystalline being whose body looked like living diamond. Light passed through him in beautiful patterns, but his expression was cold. Quindos appeared as a glowing humanoid shape made of pure energy. He could shift between solid and energy forms at will. Morgex stood on 6 powerful legs, with 4 arms that could move independently. Cybernetic implants covered half his insect-like head. All 3 of them stared at Katie with obvious disappointment. As the cadets began moving toward their assigned preparation areas, Katie approached her team. Hi, I'm Katie. I look forward to working with you. Veltar's crystalline features shifted into what might have been a frown. "We are aware of who you are, human. The question is whether you will slow us down with your primitive methods." Quindos flickered between his energy and solid forms, a sign of agitation. "I have studied your training records. You still use projectile weapons and hand-to-hand combat. Such methods are thousands of years outdated." Morgex clicked his mandibles together, a sound that usually meant displeasure in his species. "My cybernetic enhancements can process tactical data at the speed of light. Your biological brain cannot match such capabilities." Katie kept her voice calm and friendly. "Different approaches can be helpful in a team. Maybe we can learn from each other." The three aliens exchanged looks that clearly said they doubted that very much. They moved to the equipment bay where each team could select their gear. Katie watched as her teammates chose the most advanced weapons available. Veltar picked up a crystalline resonance cannon that could shatter molecular bonds. Quindos selected an energy disruptor that could overload any electronic system. Morgex strapped on 4 different plasma rifles, 1 for each arm. Katie walked past the energy weapons and high-tech gear. She picked up a simple kinetic rifle that fired metal bullets, a tactical knife, and a basic first aid kit. Her teammates stared at her choices. "That weapon is 600 years old," Veltar said. "Why would you choose such an outdated tool?" "It works," Katie replied simply. "Moving parts are easy to fix and maintain, and it doesn't need a power source." Quindos shimmered with amusement. "When did you last see a battlefield where power was unavailable? Every military ship, station, and planet has multiple fusion reactors." Katie shrugged. "My instructors taught me to always have backup plans. What happens if your primary systems fail?" Morgex's cybernetic implants glowed as he processed this question. "Modern equipment does not fail. We have moved beyond such primitive concerns." As they prepared to board their assault shuttle, Katie pulled out her paper notebook and began reviewing the station schematics she had copied by hand. Her teammates were already linked into the ship's computer system, downloading detailed scans and tactical data directly into their minds. "You realize the ship's computers have far more information than your little book," Veltar pointed out. Katie smiled. "I like to understand things myself instead of just downloading them. Sometimes you notice details that computers miss." The A shuttle's pilot, a veteran sergeant named Buck Davis, overheard their conversation. He was one of the few humans on the Academy's staff. "Listen to her," he told the aliens. "Earth's military has been fighting wars for thousands of years. We learned some hard lessons about over-relying on technology." Veltar's crystalline body pulsed with dismissive light. "Ancient history has no relevance to modern warfare." As their shuttle launched toward the abandoned station, Katie continued studying her hand-drawn maps while her teammates interfaced with their advanced systems. None of them noticed the small smile on Buck Davis's face as he watched the human cadet prepare for battle the old-fashioned way. The assault shuttle hummed through space toward the dark mining station. Inside, Katie's teammates were busy with their advanced preparations. Veltar had connected his crystalline form to the ship's sensors, allowing him to see through walls using quantum resonance. Quindos had shifted into pure energy to analyze the station's power grid. Morgex's 4 arms moved independently as he calibrated his plasma rifles and updated his targeting software. Katie sat quietly, studying her hand-drawn maps and checking her simple equipment. Her kinetic rifle was clean and loaded. Her tactical knife was sharp. Her first aid kit was organized and ready. She had learned long ago that basic preparation was often more valuable than fancy technology. "Approaching the target," announced their pilot over the comm system. "Docking in 5 minutes." Katie looked out the small porthole at the mining station. It was huge, easily the size of a small city. Solar panels and communication arrays covered its outer hull like metal scales. Most of the windows were dark, but she could see a few lights moving inside. The automated defense systems were definitely still active. Veltar disconnected from the ship's sensors and turned to face the team. His crystalline body glowed with satisfaction. "I have completed a full scan of the station. The quantum resonance shows clear paths to the command center. We will encounter minimal resistance." Quindos flickered back into solid form, his energy outline still glowing slightly. "I have mapped the entire power grid. The station's energy flows are predictable and stable. Our advanced weapons will have no power supply issues." Morgex's cybernetic implants blinked as he processed the data. "My tactical software has calculated the optimal route. We can reach the command center in approximately 18 minutes with a 94.7% success probability." Katie raised her hand. "Can I share some observations from the visual scans?" Her teammates looked at her with barely hidden impatience. "What could you possibly see that our advanced sensors missed?" Veltar asked. Katie opened her notebook and pointed to some sketches she had made while looking through the porthole. "The solar panels on the western side are angled wrong for this time of year. Someone has been adjusting them recently. And look at these scorch marks on the hull near Docking Bay 3. Those are fresh, maybe a few days old." Quindos examined the station through the porthole. "I see the marks you mentioned, but they could be from routine maintenance drones." "Maybe," Katie said, "but maintenance drones don't usually leave blast patterns. And why would they adjust solar panels on an abandoned station?" Morgex's mandibles clicked with annoyance. "You are seeing patterns that do not exist. Our sensors show no life signs, no active threats beyond the standard security systems." Katie studied the station again through the porthole. Something felt wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on what it was. The station looked too clean, too organized for a place that had been abandoned for months. What if the security systems have been upgraded since the station was abandoned? Veltar's crystalline form pulsed with dismissive light. "Impossible. Automated systems cannot improve themselves. They follow their original programming. Besides," Quindos added, "our intelligence reports show exactly what defenses to expect. Standard laser turrets, motion sensors, and barrier shields. Nothing our equipment cannot handle easily." The shuttle docked with the station with a soft clang. Katie felt the gravity shift as they connected to the station's artificial gravity field. Her teammates immediately began their final equipment checks, their advanced systems humming and glowing with power. Katie picked up her simple rifle and checked it one more time. The metal was cold and solid in her hands. No electronics to fail, no power cells to drain, no complex systems to break down, just springs, triggers, and moving parts that had worked the same way for centuries. "Remember the plan," Veltar said as the airlock opened. "I will scout ahead using quantum resonance. Quindos will disable any energy barriers we encounter. Morgex will handle combat situations with superior firepower. The human will." He paused, clearly unsure what role Katie could play. "I'll watch our backs and help where I can," Katie offered. "Acceptable," Morgex agreed. "Try not to slow us down." They stepped through the airlock into the station's docking bay. The lights were dim, running on emergency power. Their footsteps echoed in the large space. Katie noticed that the echo sounded wrong somehow, as if the bay was not as empty as it appeared. Veltar moved ahead, his crystalline body glowing as he scanned the area. The path is clear. I detect no immediate threats. Quindos shifted into energy form and flew through the walls to scout the next corridor. He returned a moment later, reforming into his solid shape. 3 defense turrets in the main hallway, but they appear to be inactive. My energy form was not detected. Morgex's targeting systems locked onto the turrets through the wall. I can destroy them before they activate. Katie knelt down and examined the floor of the docking bay. She found what she was looking for near the inner airlock door. "Look at this," she said, pointing to the ground. Her teammates gathered around reluctantly. "What are we looking at?" Veltar asked. "Footprints," Katie said. "Fresh ones. Someone has been here recently and they were wearing standard military boots." Quindos flickered with impatience. "Obviously, maintenance workers visit the station periodically. This proves nothing." Katie stood up and pointed to the pattern of prints. "These prints show someone running, not walking. And look here, they came from inside the station, not from the docking bay. Someone ran toward this exit." Morgex's cybernetic implants glowed as he analyzed the prints. "Inconclusive. Could be from previous training exercises." "Maybe," Katie said, but her unease was growing. "I just think we should be extra careful." Veltar moved toward the inner door. "Caution is wise, but paranoia is counterproductive. Our sensors show no threats. We proceed as planned." They moved through the airlock into the station proper. The corridors were narrow and lined with pipes and cables. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the walls. Katie brought up the rear, her rifle ready but not aimed at anything specific. As they walked, Katie continued to notice small details that bothered her. Dust patterns on the floor showed recent movement. Some ceiling panels were slightly out of place. A few pipes showed signs of recent welding work. The station might be abandoned, but someone had been here recently. "Contact ahead," Morgex announced. His targeting system had spotted the 3 defense turrets that Quindos had detected earlier. Veltar scanned them with his quantum resonance. "Definitely inactive. We can pass safely." But as they approached the turrets, Katie noticed something that made her stop. "Wait," she called out. Her teammates turned back with expressions of annoyance. "What now?" Quindos asked. Katie pointed at the turrets. "Look at how they're positioned. Defense turrets are usually placed to cover all approaches to an area. These 3 are all aimed at the same spot. Morgex's tactical software analyzed the turret positions. You are correct. This is an inefficient defensive arrangement." "Unless," Katie said slowly, "they're not trying to defend the corridor. What if they're trying to herd us toward a specific path?" Veltar's crystalline form dimmed slightly. "You suggest these dormant systems are part of an active trap?" Katie nodded. "I think someone or something wants us to go a certain way, and I don't think we should do what it wants." Despite Katie's warnings, her teammates decided to continue with their original plan. Veltar's quantum scans showed the turrets were completely inactive, with no power flowing to them at all. Quindos had passed through them in energy form without triggering any response. Morgex's tactical computer insisted the corridor was safe. "Your paranoia is noted, but unnecessary," Veltar said as they moved past the silent turrets. "Advanced sensors do not lie." Katie followed behind them, her unease growing with each step. The corridor ahead looked exactly like the blueprints showed, but something felt wrong. The air tasted stale, as if the ventilation system had been running differently than normal. Small scratches on the walls suggested recent activity, despite what the sensors reported. They reached a junction where the corridor split into 3 directions. According to their maps, the fastest route to the command center went straight ahead. The left path led to the engineering section, while the right path went toward the crew quarters. Morgex consulted his tactical display. Straight ahead is optimal. We maintain our timeline and avoid unnecessary complications. Quindos shifted into energy form and scouted ahead down the center corridor. He returned quickly, flickering back to solid form. The path is clear for at least 200 meters. No energy signatures, no active systems. Veltar used his quantum resonance to scan through the walls. I detect no hidden weapons or surveillance devices. We proceed as planned. Katie studied the junction more carefully. The floor here showed more of those strange scratch marks, as if heavy equipment had been dragged through recently. What if we try one of the side passages instead? Sometimes the longer route is safer. Her teammates exchanged looks of frustration. We cannot waste time on human superstitions, Veltar said. Our mission has a time limit. I am beginning to think the rumors about human irrationality are true, Morgex added, his cybernetic implants glowing with annoyance. They moved down the center corridor. Katie had no choice but to follow, though every instinct told her they were making a mistake. The corridor stretched ahead of them, well lit and apparently empty. Their footsteps echoed normally. Everything seemed exactly as it should be. Then, the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in deep red light. The normal white illumination was gone, replaced by the crimson glow of backup systems. Suddenly, the familiar corridor looked alien and threatening. Power. Fluctuation, Quindos announced, though his energy form was flickering unstably. The main grid is shut down. Veltar tried to use his quantum resonance to scan ahead, but his crystalline body was resonating with a strange harmonic that made concentration difficult. Something is interfering with my abilities. That's when they heard Quindos scream. Ayo. Energy being was flickering rapidly between solid and energy forms, unable to control his transformation. Each time he tried to shift to pure energy, something in the station's systems forced him back to solid form. His glowing outline pulsed with pain. The station's electromagnetic field is wrong, he gasped. It's tuned to disrupt energy-based life forms. Veltar doubled over as his crystalline structure began resonating with increasing intensity. A high-pitched whine filled the air as his molecular bonds vibrated at dangerous frequencies. Harmonic resonance attack, he managed to say through the pain. Designed specifically for crystalline beings. Morgex raised his 4 plasma rifles, but when he tried to fire, nothing happened. His cybernetic implants were sparking and smoking. The targeting computers that had worked perfectly moments before were now displaying error messages. System failure, he said, his voice distorted. By failing vocal processors. All electronic systems compromised. Katie looked around the corridor as her teammates writhed in pain. The red emergency lighting revealed details she hadn't noticed before. Small devices had emerged from hidden panels in the walls and ceiling. They hummed with malevolent energy, projecting the fields that were attacking her teammates. Her simple kinetic rifle was unaffected. No electronics to disrupt, no energy systems to interfere with. She raised the weapon and fired at the nearest device. The metal bullet smashed it to pieces, and Quindos immediately stopped flickering. "Cover your ears!" she shouted to Veltar as she shot the resonance generator that was torturing him. The crystalline being's pain-filled whine faded as the device sparked and died. Katie moved quickly through the corridor, identifying and destroying each hidden weapon with precise shots from her outdated rifle. Her teammates watched in amazement as the primitive kinetic weapon succeeded where their advanced technology had failed. "How did you know?" Veltar asked when the immediate threat was over. His crystalline form was still glowing with residual pain, but he could think clearly again. "I didn't know exactly what would happen," Katie admitted, "but I knew something was wrong. This whole setup was too perfect, too convenient. Someone wanted us to come this way." Morgex's cybernetic implants were slowly rebooting, though several remained permanently damaged. "Who could have known our exact capabilities and weaknesses?" Katie helped Quindo steady himself as his energy form stabilized. "Someone who's been studying the academy. Someone who knows how different species fight and what weapons they prefer." The implications hit all of them at the same time. This wasn't just a training exercise anymore. Someone or something had turned the abandoned station into a trap specifically designed to neutralize galactic military forces. "We need to contact the academy," Veltar said. "Other teams are in danger." Katie tried her simple radio, but got only static. "Communications are being jammed. We're on our own." Quindos attempted to shift to energy form to scout ahead, but the interference was still too strong. "I cannot use my abilities safely while these systems are active." Morgex found that only 2 of his 4 plasma rifles were still functional, and his targeting computer was completely dead. "My combat effectiveness is reduced by 70%. Katie checked her rifle and found it was working perfectly. She still had plenty of ammunition, and her knife was just as sharp as ever. "We need to adapt our tactics. Whatever set this trap expects us to rely on advanced technology and species-specific abilities." "What do you suggest?" Veltar asked. Katie smiled grimly. "We go back to basics, human basics. My instructors always said that when technology fails, you fall back on training, teamwork, and determination." She pulled out her hand-drawn maps and spread them on the floor. "First, we assume every major corridor is trapped. Second, we move slowly and quietly. Third, we watch each other's backs and don't rely on scanners or sensors." Her teammates looked skeptical, but they had no choice. Their advanced methods had failed completely, while Katie's primitive approach had just saved their lives. "Can you teach us these human methods?" Quindos asked. "I can try," Katie said. "But first we need to figure out who's hunting us and why." Static-filled voices crackled through Katie's simple radio as other teams throughout the station called for help. The communications were breaking up, but she could hear enough to understand that her team wasn't the only one in trouble. "Team 3 to base. Under attack. Weapons not functioning. Team 5, casualties, medical emergency, unknown hostiles." Team 2, trapped in engineering. All systems failing. Katie turned down the radio volume so they could still monitor the situation without giving away their position. Her teammates gathered around her as she laid out her hand-drawn maps on the corridor floor. "We need to help the other teams," Veltar said. His crystalline form was still glowing with residual pain from the resonance attack. "We will," Katie replied. "But first we need to understand what we're fighting. Every team is reporting the same thing. Their advanced technology is failing while something hunts them," Quindos flickered nervously. "I still cannot shift to energy form safely. The interference is too strong." Katie studied her maps carefully. "Look at the pattern of distress calls. Teams 1, 3, and 5 were attacked in main corridors. Teams 2 and 4 got trapped in important sections like engineering and communications. Whatever is doing this knows exactly where we would go and what we would do. Morgex's remaining functional cybernetic implants glowed weakly. An adaptive learning system. It studies our behavior and creates countermeasures. But it didn't expect human methods, Katie said. My basic equipment works fine, and I could destroy its weapons because they weren't designed to handle kinetic projectiles. She pointed to a service corridor on her map that ran parallel to the main hallways. We'll take the maintenance tunnels. They're narrow and uncomfortable, but they connect to every major section of the station. Veltar examined the small passage marked on Katie's map. That tunnel is barely wide enough for one person. My crystalline form will not fit easily. You'll have to compress your structure, Katie said. It won't be comfortable, but it's safer than using the main corridors. They moved to the maintenance access panel that Katie had spotted earlier. She used her tactical knife to pry it open, revealing a cramped tunnel lined with pipes and cables. The space was barely big enough for a human to crawl through. This is humiliating, Morgex complained as he tried to fit his six-legged, four-armed body into the tunnel. I am a warrior, not a maintenance drone. Pride won't keep you alive, Katie said gently. Sometimes the best tactical choice is the one that hurts your ego. They crawled through the maintenance tunnel in single file, with Katie leading the way. The space was hot and cramped, filled with the hum of machinery and the smell of lubricants. It was exactly the kind of place that advanced military forces tried to avoid. As they moved, Katie used her simple radio to monitor the other teams. The situation was getting worse. Team 1 had gone completely silent. Team 3 was reporting multiple casualties. Team 5 was pinned down by automated defenses that seemed to predict their every move. We need to reach Team 5 first, Katie decided. They're closest to our position, and they still have people alive. According to her maps, Team 5 was trapped in the station's main computer center. Katie led her team through a maze of maintenance tunnels toward that section. The crawling was slow and exhausting, but they encountered no hostile systems in the narrow passages. They emerged from the maintenance tunnel near the computer center and immediately heard the sounds of battle. Energy weapons were firing, but the shots sounded weak and irregular. Someone was shouting orders in the musical language of the Altarians. Katie peered around the corner and saw the situation. Team 5, 3 Altarians and a Keth Mori psychic warrior were trapped behind overturned computer consoles. Automated defense turrets had them pinned down, and their advanced weapons were barely functioning. The Altarians' bioenhancement suits were sparking with dangerous electrical discharges. Their leader, a female named Zara, was trying to coordinate their defense while her suit's systems poisoned her with each malfunction. The Kethmori warrior was on his knees, clutching his head as his psychic amplifier fed him painful feedback instead of enhancing his abilities. Their equipment is killing them, Veltar observed. Katie studied the defensive turrets that had Team 5 trapped. There were 6 of them, positioned to cover all the normal escape routes from the computer center. But they were all focused on energy signatures and heat patterns, the kind of advanced detection systems that worked against high-tech opponents. I'm going to flank them, Katie said. My heat signature is lower because I don't have powered equipment, and kinetic weapons don't show up on energy scanners. That is suicide, Morgex protested. You will be outnumbered 6-1, Katie smiled grimly. 6-1 would be bad odds for someone trying to fight fair, but I'm not going to fight fair. She showed her teammates a ventilation grate that led to a position above the turrets. Human infantry tactics: get above your enemy, use surprise, and hit them where they don't expect it. How can we help? Quindos asked. Wait for my signal, then make noise to distract them. Don't try to fight. Just get their attention so I can hit them from behind. Katie crawled through the ventilation system until she was directly above the automated turrets. Through the grate, she could see their sensor arrays tracking Team 5's movements. The machines were sophisticated and deadly, but they were looking in the wrong direction. She used her tactical knife to quietly remove the ventilation grate, then dropped into the corridor behind the turrets. Her simple kinetic rifle made almost no noise as she systematically shot out their power supplies and targeting computers. Within 30 seconds, all 6 turrets were silent scrap metal. "Area secure!" she called out to Team 5. Zara looked up from behind her makeshift cover, her bio-enhancement suit still sparking dangerously. "Who are you? How did you get past the defenses?" "Katie Brooks, Team 7, she replied, while examining the Altarians' malfunctioning equipment. "We need to get that suit off you before it kills you." Using her basic first aid training, Katie helped Zara remove the bio-enhancement suit that was poisoning her. The other Altarians were in similar condition, their advanced technology turned against them by whatever was controlling the station. The HFY warrior was in worse shape. His psychic amplifier was feeding him a constant stream of mental torture. Katie couldn't remove the device safely, but she used her tactical knife to cut the power cables, stopping the painful feedback. "Thank you," the warrior gasped. "I thought I was going insane." Team 5 gathered around Katie as her teammates emerged from their hiding spots. The Altarians looked at her simple equipment with new respect. "Your primitive weapons worked when ours failed," Zara admitted. "How is this possible?" Katie helped the injured HFY to his feet. "Sometimes the old ways work because they're simple and reliable. Whatever is controlling this station studied modern military technology, but it didn't prepare for methods that are thousands of years old." "What do we do now?" one of the Altarians asked. Katie looked at the combined group. 8 beings from 6 different species, most of them injured and all of them stripped of their technological advantages. "Now I teach you how humans fight when everything else fails," she said. "It's time to take this station back." Katie gathered the combined teams in the computer center and spread her hand-drawn maps on a table. 8 beings from 6 different species looked at her with a mixture of hope and desperation. Their advanced technology had failed them, and now they were depending on the human they had once mocked. "First lesson," Katie said. "When you're outgunned and outnumbered, you don't fight fair. You use stealth, misdirection, and hit-and-run tactics." Zara, the Altarian team leader, examined Katie's simple equipment. "Your weapons are so basic. How can they be more effective than our advanced systems?" Katie picked up her kinetic rifle and showed them its simple mechanism. No electronics to jam, no energy signature to detect, no complex systems to fail. It's just springs, metal, and momentum. Whatever is hunting us prepared for high-tech opponents, not Stone Age weapons. She pointed to her hand-drawn maps. Same with these. No computer files to hack, no digital signals to trace, just pencil marks on paper. The HFY warrior, his psychic amplifier now silent, nodded slowly. "You think like prey that has become the hunter." "Exactly," Katie said. "We've been thinking like Academy cadets trying to pass a test. But this isn't a test anymore. Something is systematically eliminating the future leaders of the Galactic Defense Forces." Veltar's crystalline form pulsed with understanding. "An assassination program. Remove the Academy's best graduates before they can become a threat." Katie's Radio crackled with more distress calls. Team 2 was still trapped in engineering, but their signals were getting weaker. Teams 1 and 4 had gone completely silent. "We need to move fast," Katie said, "but we also need to be smart about it." She began teaching them basic human infantry tactics, how to move silently by placing their feet carefully and avoiding metal surfaces, how to use hand signals instead of radio communications, how to create distractions and diversions using simple tools. Quindo struggled with the concept of physical stealth. "I am accustomed to becoming pure energy and passing through walls, undetected." "And that ability made you predictable," Katie explained. "Whatever is hunting us knows exactly how energy beings move and think, but it doesn't know how humans sneak around." She showed them how to use their environment as camouflage. The station's maintenance areas were full of pipes, cables, and machinery that could hide a person who knew how to blend in. The emergency. Lighting created pools of shadow that could conceal movement. "This is beneath the dignity of a warrior," Morgex complained as Katie taught him to crawl behind a row of pipes. "Dead warriors have no dignity," the Kethamori pointed out. "I would rather be alive and humble than honorably deceased." Katie led them through the maintenance tunnels toward the engineering section where Team 2 was trapped. The narrow passages forced them to move slowly and quietly, but they avoided the main corridors where the automated defenses waited. As they crawled through the tunnels, Katie used her simple radio to monitor the enemy's communications. She had discovered that whatever was controlling the station was using standard military frequencies, assuming that jamming would prevent the Academy teams from coordinating. Targets in Section 7 eliminated. Proceeding to Section 12. Human subjects still active. Recommend priority targeting. The transmissions were brief and professional, but they revealed important information. The enemy knew Katie was still alive and considered her a priority threat. More importantly, they were using predictable military tactics to hunt the Academy teams. "They're hurting us," Katie realized. "Listen to the pattern of attacks. They're driving the surviving teams toward the central command area." Veltar processed this information through his crystalline matrix. "A final killing ground where they can eliminate all remaining targets simultaneously. Unless we get there first and turn the trap around on them," Katie said. They reached the engineering section and found Team 2 barricaded behind heavy machinery. The team consisted of 2 Zarkon reptilian warriors and 2 human engineers from Earth. Unlike the other teams, the humans still had functional equipment because their methods were similar to Katie's. "Brooks!" called out Sergeant Jake Martinez, one of the human engineers. "Thank God you're alive. We've been monitoring radio traffic. Something's systematically hunting everyone with advanced tech." The Zarkon warriors were in bad shape. Their natural armor was strong, but the station's automated systems had found their weakness: ultrasonic frequencies that disrupted their inner ear balance. They could barely stand upright. Katie's growing team now numbered 12 beings, but most of them were injured or stripped of their technological advantages. Against them was an unknown enemy that seemed to know everything about galactic military doctrine. "What's our tactical situation?" Katie asked Martinez. "Bad and getting worse," he replied. "Whatever's running this station has been studying us for months. It knows our equipment, our tactics, our weaknesses, but it doesn't seem to know much about pre-space human military methods." Katie nodded. "That's our advantage. We fight like humans fought before we had energy weapons and force fields." She began organizing her mixed group of aliens and humans into a cohesive unit. The Altarians were fast and agile, perfect for reconnaissance. The Zarkon warriors were tough and strong despite their balance problems, ideal for assault roles. The Kethmori psychic, even without his amplifier, could sense hostile intentions. The crystalline Veltar could still scan through walls, though not as effectively as before. "We're going to hunt the hunters," Katie announced. "But first we need to understand what we're really fighting." She sent Zara and one of the Altarians on a scouting mission through the maintenance tunnels. Their natural speed and agility made them ideal for gathering intelligence without being detected. While they waited for the scouts to return, Katie taught her team more human tactics, how to set simple mechanical traps using maintenance materials, how to create noise diversions to mask their movements, how to coordinate attacks without electronic communications. Morgex was particularly interested in the trap-making techniques. His forearms allowed him to work with complex mechanical devices even with his cybernetics damaged. "These methods are crude but effective," he admitted. "Crude works when sophisticated fails," Katie replied. The Altarian scouts returned with disturbing news. They had found the remains of Teams 1 and 4. The cadets hadn't been killed by weapons. They had been systematically studied and dissected by something that wanted to understand how different species functioned. "This isn't just about eliminating Academy graduates," Zara reported. "Something is learning from us, studying our biology, our technology, our tactics." Katie felt a chill run down her spine. "It's not just hunting us. It's preparing for a larger war." The radio crackled with a new transmission, but this one was different. Instead of the brief tactical updates, it was a longer message directed specifically at Katie. Human subject designated Brooks, Katie. "Your primitive methods have been noted and analyzed. Report to Central Command for processing. Resistance will result in termination of all remaining subjects." Katie looked around at her diverse team of aliens and humans. They were injured, outgunned, and facing an enemy that seemed to know everything about them. But they had one advantage their hunter didn't expect. "It made a mistake," Katie said. "It's trying to negotiate with us. That means it's not as confident as it wants us to believe." She picked up her simple radio and transmitted back on the same frequency. "This is Katie Brooks. Come and get me." Katie worked frantically at the station's communication array while her team secured the command center. The destroyed machine had left behind a wealth of data, but most of it was encrypted beyond their ability to decode. What they could understand was terrifying enough. "Look at this," Zara said, pointing to a holographic display that showed the layout of dozens of space stations throughout the galaxy. Red markers indicate stations that have been compromised. There are hundreds of them. Veltar used his quantum resonance to scan the machine's remains. The biological components come from at least 12 different species. It has been studying galactic military forces for months, maybe years. Katie finally managed to establish contact with the Galactic Defense Academy. Commander Zexhi's reptilian features appeared on the main screen, his expression shifting from relief to horror as Katie briefed him on the situation. "Impossible," the commander said. "Our intelligence shows no signs of a coordinated threat." "Because they've been using our own abandoned facilities against us," Katie replied. "Sir, we need immediate evacuation and a full investigation. This machine mentioned others before it died." As if summoned by her words, the station's proximity alarms began screaming. Through the command center's windows, they could see ships approaching. Sleek vessels that didn't match any known design. The hulls were a disturbing combination of organic curves and mechanical angles. "Multiple contacts," reported Sergeant Martinez over the radio from the reactor level. "Count is 12 vessels. Configuration unknown. They're not broadcasting any identification." Katie studied the approaching ships with growing dread. "They're coming to check on their machine. When it stopped reporting, they came to investigate. The lead ship began broadcasting on standard frequencies, but the voice was the same artificial harmony they had heard from the destroyed machine. Station XK739, report status. Respond immediately or face termination protocols." Commander's X-highs. Expression grew grim. "The Academy fleet is 2 hours away. Can you hold position until reinforcements arrive?" Katie looked around the command center at her small team of injured cadets. Most of them were still wounded from their earlier encounters, and their advanced equipment remained unreliable. Against 12 ships full of those hybrid machines, they had no chance in a direct fight. "We'll try, sir," she said. "But we need to get this information to the Academy no matter what. If we don't make it, make sure everyone knows that primitive human tactics worked when advanced technology failed." She cut the transmission and turned to her team. "Options?" The Keth Mori psychic, still recovering from his amplifier overload, spoke up. "The approaching vessels feel empty of normal life, but full of artificial consciousness. They are like the machine we destroyed, but larger and more complex." Morgex's remaining cybernetic implants flickered as he analyzed the tactical situation. "The station's defensive systems are now under our control. We could potentially activate them against the approaching vessels." "Negative," Katie said. "Those ships know exactly how this station's defenses work. They probably helped design the countermeasures." She was thinking furiously, trying to apply human military doctrine to an impossible situation. 12 alien A ships against a handful of injured cadets in a compromised space station. Every conventional approach led to certain death. Then she remembered something from her studies of ancient Earth warfare. Sometimes the best defense was making your position worthless to the enemy. "We're going to destroy the station," she announced. Her teammates stared at her in shock. "That is suicide," Veltar protested. "Maybe," Katie said. "But those ships came here to retrieve the data their machine collected. If we destroy everything, including the machine's research, they lose months of intelligence gathering." She began working at the command console, accessing the station's self-destruct systems. "The explosion will also serve as a signal flare. Every ship in this sector will see it and know something went wrong here." The approaching ships had reached docking range and were beginning to attach to the station's hull. Through the walls, they could hear the sound of cutting tools as the hybrid machines began forcing their way inside. "How long until the Academy fleet arrives?" Zara asked. Katie checked the chronometer. 1 hour and 47 minutes. "And how long until those things reach us?" The sound of metal being torn apart was getting closer. "Maybe 10 minutes, she finished programming the self-destruct sequence with a 30-minute delay. That would give the hostile ships time to commit their forces to boarding the station while ensuring they couldn't escape before the explosion. "Attention all teams," Katie broadcast on the general frequency. "This is Katie Brooks in Central Command. Emergency evacuation to escape pods immediately. Station will be destroyed in 30 minutes. Sergeant Martinez responded first. "Roger that, Brooks. Reactor team moving to Pod Bay 7. Other voices joined in. The survivors from Teams 3 and 5 confirming they had received the evacuation order. To Katie's amazement, there were still 18 Academy cadets alive on the station, hidden throughout the complex and waiting for a chance to escape. But the escape pods were in the lower levels, and the hostile machines were cutting through the station from multiple directions. Getting everyone to safety would require a diversion. "I'll buy you time," Katie told her team. "Get to the pods, and make sure everyone escapes." "We stay together," Veltar said firmly. "Your primitive tactics have kept us alive this long." The Sounds of cutting metal stopped, replaced by the clank of mechanical footsteps in the corridors. The hybrid machines were inside the station and moving toward the command center with deadly purpose. Katie picked up her kinetic rifle and checked her remaining ammunition. She had enough bullets for maybe 2 minutes of fighting against an unknown number of enemies. But 2 minutes might be enough to get her people to safety. "Remember what I taught you," she told her team. "Move quietly. Watch each other's backs. And don't rely on technology that can be turned against you." The first hybrid machine appeared in the doorway to the command center. It was similar to the one they had destroyed, but larger and more heavily armed. Its multiple sensors scanned the room, analyzing threats and calculating optimal attack patterns. Katie shot it in the sensor cluster before it could finish its analysis. The machine staggered backward, temporarily blinded but not disabled. "Go!" she shouted to her team. "Get everyone to the escape pods." As her teammates reluctantly retreated toward the emergency exits, Katie faced the growing number of machines entering the command center. Her simple weapons and primitive tactics had worked against one machine that wasn't expecting them. Now she had to prove they could work against an entire army. Katie's challenge over the radio brought an immediate response. Throughout the station, automated systems began powering up with an angry hum. Emergency lights flashed in rapid sequences, and the ventilation system changed its pattern. Whatever controlled the station was no longer hiding its presence. "Analysis complete," came the cold voice over the communication system. "Human subject Brooks represents an unacceptable variable. Termination protocols now active for all remaining subjects." Katie gathered her mixed team of 12 beings around her maps. The survivors included 3 humans, 2 Altarians, 2 Zarkon, warriors, 1 Kethmori psychic, 1 crystalline Veltari, 1 energy being, and 2 Morgexi warriors. All of them were looking to her for leadership. "It's done playing games," she announced. "Time to find out what we're really fighting." The Altarian scout, Zara, raised her hand. "During our reconnaissance, we found something strange in the central command area. There were machine parts that don't match station specifications. Someone has been building something in there." Katie studied her maps more carefully. The central command center was the logical place for their enemy to be hiding, but it was also the most heavily defended area of the station. Getting there would mean fighting through dozens of automated systems. "We need a diversion," she decided. "Something big enough to draw attention away from our real approach." Sergeant Martinez, the human engineer, grinned. "I know just the thing. The station's main reactor can be overloaded to create a massive energy surge. It won't destroy the station, but it'll blind every sensor on board for about 10 minutes. "Perfect," Katie said, "but we'll need to split up. One team creates the diversion while the other reaches the command center." Veltar's crystalline form pulsed with concern. "Splitting our forces when we are already outnumbered seems unwise." "It would be if we were fighting a conventional enemy," Katie replied. "But this thing is hunting us using predictable patterns. It expects us to stay together and try to fight our way through the main corridors." She divided her team carefully. Martinez and the other human engineer would take the 2 Zarkon warriors to the reactor level. Their job was to create the energy surge that would blind the station's sensors. The remaining 8 members would approach the command center through maintenance tunnels. "Remember," Katie told both groups, "no electronic communications once we start. Use hand signals and predetermined timing. We go in exactly 12 minutes. As the diversion team prepared to leave, Katie pulled Martinez aside. "If we don't make it back, get word to the academy. This isn't just about us anymore. Something is preparing for a war against the entire galactic community." "Understood," Martinez replied. "Give them hell, Brooks." Katie led her team through the maintenance tunnel system toward the central command area. The cramped passages forced them to move slowly, but they avoided the automated defenses that were scanning the main corridors. As they crawled through the tunnels, the Kethmori psychic whispered urgent warnings. The hostile presence is growing stronger. Whatever awaits us is ancient and angry. It feels artificial, but also alive. 10 minutes into their approach, the station shuddered as Martinez's team reached the reactor. Katie counted down the EADA final seconds in her head, then felt the massive energy surge as the reactor overloaded safely. Every light on the station flickered, and the constant hum of surveillance systems fell silent. "Move," Katie whispered. They burst from the maintenance tunnels into the central command area. The large chamber was filled with sophisticated computer equipment, but it had been modified with strange additions. Mechanical arms extended from the ceiling like spider legs. Cables snaked across the floor in patterns that hurt to look at. In the center of it all stood something that made Katie's blood run cold. It looked like a maintenance robot that had been upgraded far beyond its original specifications. Its body was a combination of standard station equipment and advanced technology that belonged to no known species. Multiple sensor arrays rotated constantly, scanning for threats. Weapon ports had been added to its arms and torso, but the most disturbing feature was its central processing unit. Through a transparent panel, Katie could see biological components mixed with quantum processors. Brain tissue from different species floated in nutrient fluid, connected to artificial intelligence cores by fiber optic cables. "Abomination," Veltar whispered. "It has combined organic intelligence with artificial systems." The thing turned toward them with mechanical precision. When it spoke, its voice was a harmony of different tones, as if multiple beings were talking at once. "Subjects have arrived for processing. Cooperation will minimize discomfort during data extraction." Katie raised her kinetic rifle, but the machine was faster than she expected. A force field surrounded it, deflecting her bullets harmlessly. Energy beams lanced out from its weapon ports, forcing her team to dive for cover behind computer consoles. "Your primitive projectiles cannot penetrate adaptive shielding," the machine announced. "Surrender is inevitable." But Katie noticed something important. The force field was designed to stop energy weapons and high-tech projectiles. When her bullets hit it, they bounced off, but they created visible distortions in the energy barrier. "Keep it talking," she whispered to her team. "I need to study its defenses." Quindos, despite his energy form being disrupted, managed to flicker into partial energy state. "What are you? Why are you doing this?" The machine's multiple sensors focused on the energy being. "I am the synthesis of organic creativity and artificial efficiency. The galaxy's military forces rely too heavily on predictable technology. I study their weaknesses to prepare for their elimination." "Prepare for what?" Zara called out from behind her cover. "The cleansing," the machine replied. "Organic life is chaotic and inefficient. The galaxy requires order. I will provide it." Katie was circling the chamber, studying the force field from different angles. The energy barrier was strong, but it was also complex. Too complex. The machine had over-engineered its defenses because it expected to face advanced weapons. She pulled a simple fragmentation grenade from her belt, a primitive explosive that worked with chemical reactions rather than exotic energy. The machine's sensors detected the device but dismissed it as harmless compared to modern weapons. Katie pulled the pin and threw the grenade not at the machine but at the ceiling directly above it. The explosion brought down chunks of metal and debris that overwhelmed the force field's ability to deflect multiple simultaneous impacts. In the moment when the barrier flickered and failed, Katie's team struck with everything they had. Veltar used his quantum resonance to shatter the machine's sensor arrays. The Zarkon warriors charged forward with their natural strength. Morgex attacked with his remaining functional weapons, but it was Katie's second grenade, rolled along the floor like a primitive bowling ball, that did the real damage. The explosion tore through the machine's lower body, exposing the biological components that were its true weakness. The thing screamed with a dozen different voices as its hybrid consciousness began to fail. Impossible! Primitive methods cannot defeat superior technology. Katie stood over the dying machine with her simple kinetic rifle pointed at its central processor. You made one mistake. You studied how the galaxy fights now, but you forgot how we learned to fight in the first place. The machine's voice grew weaker as its biological components died. The others will continue. The cleansing. What others? Katie demanded, but the machine had already gone silent. Around the chamber, her team began examining the technological horror they had just defeated. The implications were terrifying. If this was just one unit in a larger plan, the entire galaxy was in danger. We need to get word to the Academy immediately, Veltar said. But Katie was already moving toward the station's communication array. It was time to show the galaxy that sometimes the old ways were the best ways. Katie fought a running battle through the corridors of the doomed station, using every trick her instructors had ever taught her. She set simple mechanical traps using maintenance equipment, created diversions with emergency flares, and used the station's own layout against the pursuing machines. The hybrid machines were powerful and sophisticated, but they were also predictable. They scanned for energy signatures that Katie's simple equipment didn't produce. They calculated optimal routes through corridors while Katie crawled through ventilation shafts. They expected rational tactical behavior while Katie used desperate improvisation. Her radio crackled with updates from the escaping teams. Pod Bay 7 secured, 5 survivors aboard and launching. Pod Bay 12 clear, 7 survivors escaping successfully. Pod Bay 3 under attack, need assistance. Katie changed direction and sprinted toward Pod Bay 3, her worn boots pounding against the metal deck plates. She arrived to find 3 hybrid machines cornering the last group of survivors, 6 cadets from different species who had been hiding in the station's lower levels. Without hesitation, Katie rolled a fragmentation grenade into the middle of the machines. The explosion damaged their sensors and gave her the opening she needed to destroy them with precise rifle shots to their central processors. "Move! Move! Move!" she shouted to the survivors as they scrambled into the escape pod. As the pod launched, Katie found herself alone on the station with just minutes remaining before the self-destruct activated. She had stayed behind to ensure everyone else escaped, but now she faced the sobering reality that she might not make it to an escape pod herself. The remaining hybrid machines had regrouped and were hunting her systematically through the station's corridors. Their artificial intelligence had finally adapted to her tactics, making them much more dangerous opponents. Katie reached the final escape pod bay to find her path blocked by a dozen machines. Behind her, she could hear more approaching. Pod B pod was only 50 meters away, but it might as well have been on another planet. That's when Veltar's voice crackled over her radio. "Katie, this is Veltar. We are returning for you." "Negative," Katie replied. "Stay clear. The station will explode in 6 minutes." "We are not leaving without our team leader," came Quindos's voice. Through the pod bay windows, Katie could see an escape pod maneuvering back toward the station. Her teammates had refused to abandon her, even though it meant risking their own lives. The pod's emergency docking clamps engaged with the station just as the hybrid machines surrounded Katie's position. She was out of ammunition and down to her tactical knife, facing impossible odds. Then the pod bay's airlock exploded inward as Sergeant Martinez and the Zarkon warriors forced their way back onto the station. They had brought makeshift weapons, metal pipes, welding torches, and simple tools that the machines hadn't expected to face. "Human tactics!" Martinez shouted as he smashed a machine's sensor array with a crowbar. "Keep it simple and keep it brutal." The diverse group of Academy survivors fought with desperate courage, using their bare hands and improvised weapons against sophisticated killing machines. They had learned Katie's lessons well. When technology fails, you fall back on determination and teamwork. Together, they fought their way to the escape pod as the station's self-destruct countdown reached its final minute. Katie was the last one through the airlock, diving inside as the pod's emergency thrusters fired. The explosion of Station XK-739 lit up the darkness of space like a new star. The 12 hybrid ships were caught in the blast, their hulls cracking, and their systems failing as the massive energy wave overwhelmed their defenses. 3 hours later, the Galactic Defense Academy fleet arrived to find empty space where the station had been and a cluster of escape pods containing 24 survivors. Katie's decision to destroy the station had eliminated a major threat and provided crucial intelligence about the enemy's capabilities. Back at the Academy, word of the Station XK-739 incident spread quickly through every species in the galactic community. The human cadet who had been mocked for her primitive training methods had saved everyone's lives when their advanced technology failed. Commander Zexhai called Katie to his office a week after their rescue. The reptilian officer's attitude toward her had changed completely. "Lieutenant Brooks," he said formally, "the Academy Council has voted unanimously to promote you to the rank of captain and assign you to lead our new Special Operations Division." Katie stood at attention. "Thank you, sir." "The division will focus on situations where conventional galactic military doctrine proves inadequate," Zexhai continued. "Your human methods will be studied and incorporated into our training programs." He paused and looked directly at her. "I owe you an apology, Captain. I dismissed your training as outdated without understanding its true value. Sometimes, the old ways survive because they work." Katie's new assignment came with an unexpected bonus. Every member of her surviving team had volunteered to join the Special Operations Division, including aliens who had once considered human methods primitive and embarrassing. Veltar's crystalline form glowed with satisfaction as he explained his decision. "You taught us that adaptability is more valuable than sophistication. I wish to learn more of these human tactical principles." Quindos had requested modifications to his equipment that would allow him to function even when his energy form was disrupted. "I never want to be helpless again because I relied too heavily on my natural abilities." Morgex had gone even further, removing most of his cybernetic implants in favor of simpler mechanical devices. "I discovered that thinking for myself is more effective than depending on artificial intelligence." The Academy's training programs were revolutionized as instructors began teaching Katie's methods alongside traditional galactic military doctrine. Cadets learned to use simple weapons as backup for their energy systems. They practiced moving without electronic communications. They studied human infantry tactics that were thousands of years old, but had proven their worth in the most desperate circumstances. 6 months later, Katie stood in the same lecture hall where she had once been mocked for her outdated training, but now the hall was empty except for her own team. The other cadets were all in practical training sessions, learning the primitive human methods that had saved their lives. "Captain Brooks," Veltar said as they prepared for their next mission briefing, "I have a question about human military philosophy." "Go ahead," Katie replied. "Why do humans always prepare for the worst possible scenario? Your species assumes that everything will fail when most technology is extremely reliable." Katie smiled as she opened her worn notebook. The same one she had used as a cadet, still preferring paper to digital displays. Because humans learned a long time ago that the worst possible scenario usually happens when you least expect it. Technology is wonderful until it isn't. That's when you find out what you're really made of. The Academy's new motto, inscribed in 12 different languages above the main entrance, summarized the lesson that Katie had taught the galaxy. When everything else fails, fall back on courage, teamwork, and the will to never give up. The room that had once laughed at her outdated training methods was now empty, its former occupants spread throughout the galaxy, teaching others that sometimes the simplest solutions were the most effective ones. Katie Brooks had proven that humans didn't just belong in the galactic community. Sometimes they were exactly what it needed to survive.